My ex-girlfriend humiliated me in front of her parents, said I'd never amount to anything more than a mediocre programmer, and blocked me on everything when I quit my job for my startup. 3 years later, she doesn't know I just sold that same company for $50 million. 3 years ago, I, 28M, was dating Sarah, 26F, for about 2 years. On paper, we seemed perfect, both ambitious, career-focused, met at a tech conference in Austin, similar interests in hiking and craft beer. But Sarah had this thing where she needed to be the successful one in the relationship, and she measured success purely in salary and corporate prestige. I was working as a senior software engineer at a mid-sized company called TechFlow, making decent money, around $95,000, but I had bigger dreams. Nights and weekends, I was grinding on my startup, a B2B SaaS platform for inventory management that I knew could revolutionize how small to medium businesses handled their supply chains. I'd identified a real gap in the market where existing solutions were either too expensive for smaller companies or too basic for growing ones. Sarah was climbing the corporate ladder at Pinnacle Consulting, Fortune 500, making about $120,000 as a senior analyst, always dressed immaculately in her power suits, networked like crazy at industry events, and honestly was damn good at her job. She had the corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows, the company BMW, the whole corporate success package. And she never let me forget it. The problem started subtle. Little comments about how I was always on my laptop during our Netflix nights when we were supposed to be relaxing together. Rolling her eyes when I'd get excited about user feedback or potential new features. She'd introduce me at parties as my boyfriend who works in tech and then quickly pivot to talking about her latest client win or promotion opportunity. But it got significantly worse when I started seriously considering quitting my day job. I'd been bootstrapping the startup for 8 months, had gotten our MVP to about 50 beta users, and was starting to see real traction. Monthly recurring revenue was still small, around $3,000, but the growth curve looked promising, and I was getting genuine interest from some angel investors in the local startup scene. Sarah's response when I told her about potentially quitting? "That's cute, babe, but let's be realistic here. You've got a good thing going at your current job with great benefits and job security. Why throw it away for a side project?" Side project. That phrase still makes my blood boil 3 years later. The final straw came when I finally got a meeting with Marcus Chen, a well-known angel investor who'd backed 3 successful B2B startups in our city. This was absolutely huge for me. I'd been trying to get in front of him for months, cold emailing, networking at events, and his assistant finally gave me a 30-minute slot on his calendar. I was so excited I called Sarah immediately from the parking lot. Her response was dismissive and distracted. "Oh, that's nice, honey. Hey, can we talk about this later? I'm trying to finish this presentation for tomorrow's board meeting, for my actual job that pays actual money." The meeting with Marcus went incredibly well. He was genuinely interested, asked great questions about our customer acquisition strategy and unit economics, and wanted to set up a follow-up meeting with his investment partners. I was walking on air when I got home, ready to celebrate with the woman I thought I might marry. When I got home that night, Sarah was on her laptop working on yet another client proposal. I started telling her about the meeting with barely contained excitement, and she literally held up one finger to shush me while she finished typing an email. The dismissiveness stung, but I waited. When she finally looked up, I told her everything, how Marcus thought our solution was exactly what the market needed, how he wanted to discuss a potential $250,000 seed round, how this could be the break we'd been working toward. Her response was like a bucket of cold water. "Look, I'm happy you had a good meeting, but one interested investor doesn't mean anything concrete. Do you know how many revolutionary startups fail every single year? I just don't want you to get your hopes up and make a stupid decision that affects both of our futures." But then she kept going, and that's when it got really hurtful. "Besides, even if this investor gives you money, what then? You quit your job and gamble our entire financial stability on something that statistically will probably fail within 2 years? We're supposed to be building a life together, and that requires steady income and realistic planning, not pipe dreams and wishful thinking." 2 weeks later, Marcus came back with a concrete offer. $300,000 for 15% equity, with clear milestones and expectations. It was exactly what I needed to quit my day job and hire a small but talented team. When I told Sarah about the offer, expecting her to finally understand this was real, she completely lost it. "Are you out of your fucking mind? You want to quit a $95,000 job with full benefits and job security for $300,000 that has to last God knows how long? What happens when that money runs out and your little app hasn't taken off? What happens to us?" I tried to explain the market validation we'd achieved, Marcus's proven track record with similar companies, the detailed business plan we'd developed, but she wasn't hearing any of it. You know what your problem is? You think you're special. You think you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or something. But you're not. You're a good programmer, I'll give you that, but that doesn't automatically make you an entrepreneur or business genius. The absolute final blow came 3 days later at dinner with her parents at an upscale steakhouse downtown. Her dad, a successful real estate developer, was actually genuinely interested in the business side of what I was building. He asked thoughtful questions about our customer acquisition strategy, our unit economics, how we planned to scale the operation. For the first time in months, I felt like someone was taking me seriously and treating this like a legitimate business opportunity. I was in the middle of explaining our revenue model and growth projections when Sarah interrupted with obvious frustration. "Dad, please don't encourage him. He's seriously thinking about quitting his actual job to play entrepreneur full-time. I keep telling him it's complete financial suicide, but he won't listen to reason." Before I could respond or defend myself, she continued with what felt like a deliberate humiliation. "Oh God, please don't ask him about traction or user numbers. He'll go on for an hour about his dozen beta users and his revolutionary software that probably already exists somewhere else and just hasn't been marketed properly." The entire table went silent. Her parents looked mortified by her public dismissal of me. Her mom actually looked embarrassed. I stood up calmly, thanked them for dinner and their time, and walked out without another word. The next morning, Sarah came over to my apartment and we had our final, explosive fight. She told me I was being completely selfish and naive, that I was throwing away a good, stable life for a pipe dream, and that I was going to fail spectacularly and come crawling back expecting her to pick up the pieces. When I asked what would happen if I didn't fail, if the company actually succeeded, she said with complete conviction, "You will fail. And I'm not going to waste any more of my prime years waiting around for you to grow up and face reality about your limitations." Then came the words that still echo in my head 3 years later: "You know what? Go ahead and do it. Quit your job, burn through that investor money, and crash and burn spectacularly. Maybe then you'll finally realize that being a dreamer isn't enough in the real world. Maybe then you'll understand what I've been trying to tell you, that you're not special, you're not the next tech billionaire, and you're never going to amount to anything more than a mediocre programmer with delusions of grandeur." But Sarah wasn't done systematically destroying me. Over the next week, she methodically blocked me on absolutely everything: phone number, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, even Venmo and PayPal. She told all our mutual friends that I was having a serious quarter-life crisis and was becoming toxic and completely delusional about my career prospects. Most of our friend group chose her side, which honestly made sense from their perspective. She was the one with the stable 6-figure corporate job, the nice downtown apartment, the put-together professional life. I was the guy quitting his job to chase what looked like a fantasy to most people. Jake, my college roommate and one of my oldest friends, was one of the very few who stayed neutral in the whole mess. He told me later that Sarah had called him crying for over an hour, saying I was choosing some startup fantasy over our relationship and that she was genuinely worried about my mental health and decision-making. The isolation was absolutely brutal. Losing your girlfriend is hard enough, but losing most of your social circle at the same time, right when you're taking the biggest professional risk of your life? That nearly broke me completely. But I channeled all that pain, humiliation, and anger into pure fuel for building the company. I accepted Marcus's investment, quit my job at TechFlow, and dove headfirst into building what would eventually become a multi-million-dollar business. I moved out of my nice one-bedroom apartment and into a tiny studio in a much less trendy neighborhood. My monthly expenses dropped from about $3,000 to $1,200. I lived off instant noodles, canned soup, and the cheapest groceries I could find at discount stores. My entertainment budget became exactly $0. My dating budget went into negative numbers. But I was working harder than I'd ever worked in my entire life. 16-hour days became completely normal. I'd be up until 3 a.m. coding new features and bug fixes, then up at 7 a.m. for customer calls with potential clients on the East Coast. I was doing absolutely everything: product development, sales calls, customer support, digital marketing, bookkeeping, legal research. The loneliness was crushing and relentless. I'd see social media posts from old friends hanging out at bars and restaurants, including photos of Sarah looking happy and successful at work events, company retreats, and weekend vacations. It felt like everyone was moving forward with their lives while I was stuck in this grinding, isolated existence. But slowly, painfully, things started to actually work. Our customer base grew from 50 beta users to 200 to 500 paying customers. We were solving a genuine problem that businesses were willing to pay for, and word was spreading organically through industry networks. Year 2 nearly killed me both financially and emotionally. We hit a frustrating plateau around $40,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and I couldn't figure out how to break through to the next level. Customer acquisition costs were rising faster than I'd anticipated, and we were burning through our initial runway faster than my most pessimistic projections. I had maybe 6 months of cash left in the bank, and I was starting to seriously wonder if Sarah had been right all along about my limitations and unrealistic expectations. There was one particular night, around 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, when I was staring at our financial spreadsheets and realized we might not make it past the next quarter. I was so exhausted I could barely think straight, living off energy drinks and pure spite, and for a terrifying moment I actually considered just shutting down the company and looking for a regular job again. I actually drafted a detailed email to Marcus explaining that the market wasn't responding as we'd hoped and we'd need to wind down the company and return whatever funds remained. I stared at that draft for 2 full hours, cursor blinking, thinking about how everyone would react when they heard the news. How Sarah would feel completely vindicated in her assessment of my abilities. How all those mutual friends would nod knowingly and say they saw this failure coming from the beginning. That's when I deleted the draft and went straight back to work. Fuck that noise. I wasn't going to give any of them that satisfaction. The breakthrough that changed everything came from a completely unexpected direction. One of our existing customers, a mid-sized manufacturing company in Ohio, approached us about customizing our platform for their very specific workflow requirements. It was a much bigger and more complex project than anything we'd tackled before, but they were willing to pay $50,000 upfront for the development work, plus commit to a significantly higher monthly subscription fee. That single project led to 3 more similar custom development deals within 2 months. Suddenly we weren't just another standard SaaS platform competing on price, we were positioning ourselves as a customizable solution for companies with complex, industry-specific inventory management needs. Our average deal size tripled almost overnight, and our customer lifetime value shot through the roof. By the end of year 2, we were hitting $150,000 in monthly recurring revenue and growing consistently. Year 3 was when everything absolutely exploded in the best possible way. The customization approach had unlocked a much bigger and more profitable market than I'd originally imagined. We weren't just competing with basic inventory software anymore, we were going head to head with enterprise solutions that cost 10 times more but weren't actually any more effective for our target market. We closed our series of funding round in month 30, $2.5 million led by a Tier 1 venture capital firm that specialized in B2B software. Suddenly we had the resources and credibility to really scale operations properly. The growth trajectory was absolutely insane. We went from $150,000 monthly recurring revenue to $500,000 in just 6 months, then hit the magical $1 million MRR milestone by month 42. We were landing customers I'd only dreamed about during those ramen-fueled nights in my studio apartment. By month 45, we were generating $1.5 million in monthly recurring revenue with over 200 enterprise customers. Companies I'd heard of since childhood, brands I'd grown up with, were paying us tens of thousands of dollars per year for our software solution. That success caught the attention of Tech Corp, one of the absolute giants in enterprise software. I can't name them for legal reasons, but think Microsoft, Google, Amazon tier. Their corporate development team had been tracking our growth for months and wanted to set up what they called an informal conversation about potential partnerships. Those conversations quickly evolved into serious acquisition discussions. They loved our technology and customer base, but more importantly, they loved our team's deep expertise in the inventory management space. They were building out their small business solutions suite and saw us as a perfect strategic fit. The due diligence process took 3 months and was absolutely brutal. They examined every single aspect of our business, our code architecture, our financial statements, our customer contracts, our employee agreements, our legal history, our competitive positioning. I was working 18-hour days again, but this time with teams of lawyers and accountants instead of just writing code. But we passed every single test they threw at us. Our growth metrics were completely legitimate, our customers were genuinely satisfied and sticky, our technology was solid and scalable, and our team was talented and committed. Yesterday, we finally signed the papers. $50 million. After legal fees, taxes, and equity payouts to employees and early investors, I'm personally walking away with approximately $18 million. $18 million. I went from eating ramen noodles in a studio apartment to being worth more money than I'd ever imagined in my wildest entrepreneurial dreams. But here's where this story gets absolutely delicious. Remember how Sarah blocked me on absolutely everything and systematically turned our mutual friends against me? Well, she created a perfect information blackout about my life and career progress. None of our old social circle knew about my company's growing success because they'd all cut contact, and she literally could not see any of my professional updates because she'd blocked me so thoroughly on every platform. Tech Corp announced the acquisition yesterday in a major press release that went out to all the tech blogs and industry publications. My name and photo were featured prominently as the founder and CEO. TechCrunch picked it up within hours. The local business journal ran a front-page story. It was even mentioned on several podcasts I'd listened to for years. But here's the absolutely perfect kicker: Sarah's current company, Pinnacle Consulting, does implementation work for Tech Corp on some of their larger enterprise client projects. The acquisition announcement came up in their company-wide Slack channel because it directly affects some of their ongoing client relationships and project timelines. I know all this because Jake texted me at 11 p.m. last night. Dude. Sarah's been absolutely blowing up my phone for 3 hours straight. She found out about your acquisition through work and is completely losing her mind. She's been obsessively stalking your LinkedIn profile and desperately asking everyone for your current contact information. Jake sent me screenshots of their text conversation, and I honestly cannot express how satisfying they were to read. Sarah, 11:53 p.m. Jake. His company sold for $50 million. Sarah, 11:53 p.m. 50 million. Sarah, 12:04 a.m. I can't believe this. I literally can't believe this. Sarah, 12:05 a.m. Do you have his current phone number? I desperately need to talk to him. Sarah, 12:07 a.m. We should reconnect now that we're both successful professionals. Sarah, 12:12 a.m. I always knew he had incredible potential, I just thought he was moving too fast back then. Sarah, 12:18 a.m. Jake, are you there? This is really important to me. The conversation continued like that for literally hours. She kept oscillating between trying to rewrite our entire relationship history and desperately asking for ways to contact me directly. The beautiful irony is that she literally cannot reach me because she blocked me so thoroughly 3 years ago. She burned those bridges so completely and systematically that she now has absolutely no way to contact me directly. Meanwhile, Jake told me that Sarah has been struggling professionally for the past year. Pinnacle went through a major restructuring, she got passed over for a promotion she was counting on. Her entire department got downsized, and she's been actively job hunting for 6 months without much success. I just bought a Tesla Model S Plaid because why the hell not, and put an offer on a penthouse in the city's most exclusive building. I'm 31 years old and literally never have to work another day in my life if I choose not to. So I decided to have a little fun with the situation. I updated my LinkedIn with a detailed post about the acquisition, specifically thanking the friends and mentors who believed in me even when others didn't, knowing full well that most of our mutual friends had completely ghosted me. I included photos of the signing ceremony, my new Tesla, and my stunning new apartment. The post is completely public, so even though she can't message me directly, she can see it and refresh it obsessively.